What's your name? How old are you? And where were you born?
My name is Richard Smith, but they call me Dick Smith. I was born in Hamilton, Ohio, and I am 78 years old.
What was it like growing up in Hamilton? What do you remember?
What was it like in Hamilton? Hamilton was a wonderful town. It was a small town. It's located close to Cincinnati, Ohio. And we knew everybody in the neighborhood. I was born in a time I had experience because my great grandmother lived way down in what you call down in the bottom, close to the riverbed. And she had no electricity. She used Kohler lamps. She had a slop jar in the middle room. In the kitchen, she had wood burning stove. She had an outdoor chicken coop, an outdoor toilet. She had a well. She had a washing machine that was at the end of the gutter to collect the water so she could, wash clothes. So I went through that transition. That was just one spot all to where I am now today with all this stuff they got going on.
With the phones and the apps?
Yeah, and she would just be so surprised. She had a wind-up Victrola, and the people was nice. We knew just about everybody in your neighborhood. They had neighborhoods at that time where you knew people shared, they got along well, they spoke to you, and they was concerned about your welfare, and you respected other people's property. You were taught that. And you conducted yourself in the best way you could to represent your family, no matter what your income or social level was. It's just the way you carried yourself. And people did that. So it was a good thing for me. Well, I lived in a black neighborhood, but Hamilton is predominantly white. When in the early ages, I went to an all black school. And then later on, when you start getting to junior high school, it was a mixed school and all that.
What music was in your house growing up?
Well, I told you I was close to Kentucky. It was when TV had the little screen. If you had color TV, you had the three colors going on the screen. And it had radio. So most of the radio stuff was Lawrence Welk. There was a radio station called Randy's that carried the black radio, but it only lasted so long. You could barely catch it because it was out of, I think, Tennessee. And it wasn't on but on and off. So we had all kind of music playing. We listened to a lot of country western, a lot of gospel and church songs and stuff like that.
Did you grow up in the church?
Yes, I did. I went to church every day. Every day. My grandmother loved the church. She was a religious woman. She believed in God, believed in doing things correct. I went to the steward board meeting, the willing workers, choir rehearsals, all that stuff, and we went to funerals all the time. So I must have gone to, I don't even want to talk about it, but that's what we did.
Did you sing in church? Did you have that?
Yep, I did. They used to call me the one-man quartet because in my ears, when I heard somebody sing, a quartet sing, I would hear the whole thing. And so I'm singing all the parts, trying to be one-man quartet. Then I was in a couple groups, because at that time they had the doo-wop groups were out. People singing doo-wops. I was in a doo-wop group. I was in a group with, we created our own little gospel group and sung songs around the town and did that. Yeah, I was participating in most of that.
What were the important community institutions there?
Well, of course, during that particular time, the most important institution was the church. Because we all come up with the principles and the guidelines of the church. And the schools were kind of important because the schools had more responsibility. They we gathered in the school, we socialized in the school. It was really about socialization. Your mother cared more about your conduct marks than your grades in mathematics. How have you conducted yourself in school? Have you been a principled person or not? So that would be the major thing, and how to get along with other people. And we had that opportunity because at school we ate together, lunch together, we took showers together, we had gym together, we did everything as a group, so it was socialization primarily.
How did you first get exposed to jazz?
Well, I think, technically speaking, I probably was loving jazz a long time before jazz found me, because I listened to a song, I never would want to sing a song like I heard it. I want to take my way and do it. And to be a good jazz musician is to sing all the notes wrong. Don't sing that note. That's what one of the rock and roll guys said. You don't have to do it, play every note wrong. Don't play the right note. So with creativity, so the improvisation, that component of the music, I really liked. And even when we got our little groups, we would take the song and we would construct it in a way that we could deliver it. It wasn't trying to sound like the record like a lot of people do nowadays. So, that part of it. And then there was records playing, like I told you, she had a Riding Up Victor, that had Mills Brothers on it. And you had Dinah Shore, and you had Ella Fitzgerald and people like that. There was a lot of people. So they were sort of like in the group of all singers. Then you had Dolly Parton, not Dolly Parton, but Cousin Minnie Pearl. In that group of people from the country western.
Did you continue performing in groups throughout junior high and high school?
I did. When I got to high school, I was in the high school choir, and in junior high, by that time, almost all the little churches had their own little groups. We travel around and go to church, doing what we did during that particular time. And then there were some little groups of singers. Like I come from the town I come from, they had this guy named Leroy Bonner. He played with the Ohio Players. A lot of people call him Sugarfoot. But his real name was Leroy Commodore Roosevelt Jr. Bonner. That's his whole name. Very few people knew his name like that, but I did. Knew where he lived, and we were friends. He played, but he was in. They had groups called Untouchables, and Gregory Webster really actually started that group. And then also Roger Troutman, who is big. He did Zap, and did work with Warner Brothers. He lived there too. So we were all constantly giving music all the time. So I was involved in a lot of stuff. But they were my friends.
Did you think at that time about becoming a professional musician?
Oh, I had a couple opportunities because I wrote songs. I wrote a few songs, and Motown was in Detroit. And a couple of people from Motown used to come. Girl with the Marvelettes used to have some relatives in Hamilton. So I talked about it, but I never did it. I just wasn't my thing. It was just something was going on at that time.
How did you end up in D.C.?
Well, my D.C. ride was a guy that came here to play football with the Redskins. So I had went going to Dallas first. Well, first I went to Northwestern. When I left school, I got a scholarship. Went to Northwestern, and then at Northwestern, because I've been singing, I kept on singing. I was singing in gospel choirs then with people like, I was on programs with Shirley Caesar, some of the big time stars, And we went to Detroit, we sung in all the different churches because I had been doing it for so long, I just continued to do it. Then my last year at Northwestern, I was in the WAMU show, which is a production that they have at Northwestern. They had Ann Margaret was in it, Charlton Heston, Carol Channing, people like that was in it. And I was one of the first black guys to actually make it, and so I did that, and then I had a chance to work with some other people in Chicago, shortly. So I've been doing music for a long time. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But how did football become the career path at first?
Well, I don't even know. I'll be honest with you. I just played on a good team. We had a lot of great players on the team. And I was a disciplined player. I don't know if I was any good, but I had good discipline. I did what the coach told me to do. And that puts you in a stronger position because the coach like you, people like you because you can do what they ask. They ask you to do A, B, C, that's what they want you to do. So that's how I got in football, and I was just fortunate. I gotta be honest. I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship, go to a major university, and then when I got up there, Eric Parsegian was there. He was a great coach. And I ran into some great people. I was real lucky. So, but it wasn't something that I actually pursued. Then when I got ready to get out of school, I had some speed. I could run a little bit. I was pretty fast. And I was a good athlete, but I wasn't hungry. To be a player of football, you gotta have the hunger. I didn't have the hunger. I'm a jolly guy. I want to have a damn good time, and everybody else is serious. I'm working on this, man. I'm working. And it was a different time than it is now, So I almost made the team. I think I stayed with the Cowboys because I could sing, but that's another story. But when I got
Well, what is that story?
No, that's another story. I don't even want to tell that one. But when I got to Washington, I came to D.C. I've already been involved in a lot of different. When I was at Dallas, I used to go to jazz clubs because I used to listen to what's his name? There you go. Play with Ray Charles.
Eddie Lockjaw.
No. My brain going. Fathead Newman.
Yeah, Fathead.
Yeah, he played down in Dallas, and I used to go over there. I sung a couple times with him, and it was easy for me to get in the jazz community because I was a football player, and people just accepted me. When I came to Washington, Bobby Mitchell, who was a Hall of Famer, took me down to one of the clubs in D.C. where I met Mary Jefferson, Keita Best, John Malachi, some of the people who were really good players. And she let me sit in. I sit in with her, did a couple tunes. She said, "Oh, that was so nice. Oh, that was so very nice." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." But then, it really wasn't nice. But that's where it was. So by me associating with them and going to Charlinghampton, almost everybody who's been through this program or who was in the town at that time, including Rick Henderson, Jimmy McPhail, Keita Best, Ronnie Wells, anybody you can name who was into jazz, I knew them. And I hung out with them, and then I got on the board of directors of a group called Let 'Em Play, which is run by a guy named Tony Taylor. And he had all kinds of programs going all over the city. Young guys was playing in hospitals, they was playing in community centers, playing for different people all over. And some guys like Marshall Keys, Mark Curry, all those guys you see, what's his name, Wallace Roney, they all was in the Let 'Em Play's band. So a lot of people rotated through all that. So I did that for, I was on the board for those activities, as well as participating myself, because I did Blues Alley, Celador, I did all the major institutions. Lawrence Wheatley was down at the One Step. I brought him here a couple times. He was a character. Then I did some things with a guy named Watergate Clyde. And then I worked with a guy named Ellsworth Gibson, Lady Byron, Maria Rodriguez. And most of the people, like Pepe Gonzalez, you can name anybody you name that's dealing stuff with the community. I've been dealing with that for a long time, trying to bring it together in the community aspect. Because those guys during that time played because they had a love for the music. Because they wasn't getting rich, especially off of jazz. They wasn't getting nothing. So you got a whole cultural change that's going on now. It's different, than it was.
How long did you play for the Redskins?
I played with Redskins for 2 years. I can't tell you that story, but everything ain't for everybody.
Yeah. When did you leave? When did you leave the team?
I left in, I did 60, I played 60, 67 and 68. I played 67 and 68. I left with Vince Lombardi. I could tell you that story, but I ain't gonna tell you. I tell you.
And so 69 or so, do you decide to try becoming a musician or what?
No, well see, you have to realize, all the time I was in the community, dealing with music, all the time. I didn't start dealing with music when I got through. I've been to Mr. Wise, I've been to Pigfoot. Almost any club that you can name, I have been through all of that. And working with a lot of different people. So it wasn't deciding, because for me, the music was fun. It wasn't for me to try to be great. I had worked with so many different people. I worked with a guy named Andrew White. I worked with Hilton Felton. Anybody you can name, Steve Novosel, Larry Enid, Harold Mann. Just so many different people it was a community. So then I tried to make it one large community. Then I was involved up at Howard University for maybe it was 30 years that we did the Martin Luther King Festival under Roberta McLeod. She was up there, and that was giving the musicians a chance to actually see each other. Because what's happening is with the music, with the musicians, they didn't have a lot of chance to come together, because if they were gigging, they didn't know each other. They knew us, but they didn't know each other. So that was an opportunity. So we did that for, about 30 years. Then we was looking for a place. That's how we got here.
And you talked about the fact that you started singing and kind of doing jazz-like stuff, making your own stuff, improvising. As a kid, when did you kind of start performing jazz? Was it in Dallas? Was it in Chicago?
I did Dallas, I did Chicago, and then this is not funny, but I might as well tell it. Roger Troutman, like I told you, they made a hit record with Warner Brothers. So I ended up on Warner Brothers Records. I got an album out on Warner Brothers in '83. I was working, of course I had worked in the prison system for 26 years. I was down there as an educator. So I did that, and then during that particular time in '83, my friends made a hit record called Mo Bounce with Bootsy Collins and with George Clinton, that whole crew. So I was their friend, so they said, look man, why don't you go and roll with us? I didn't have to qualify. Whether I was qualified or not didn't matter, because they were my friends. And so it's really built on relationships anyway. A lot of guys think it's something else. It's relationships. If you don't have relationships, you're dead. You can forget it. You can play all you want. You're playing in the dark. So I had good relationships with my friends, and we did a record for Warner Brothers. It was called Initial Thrust. And so that was, and they paid me for my services. And I did that. And then I started doing Oh man, I did so much stuff. I'm about to drive myself crazy. I did Vespers services. We did churches with all over the city. I must have done. Oh man, I know I must have done 100 churches, and I've sang at least 300 funerals. You know, but I've always been a type of person that did it from the bottom of my heart. So they never paid me. Not all of them. They started paying me after a while because, you know, initially they didn't want, what it wasn't about the pay, it was about what you can give, you know, as participation. So that's basically that.
And these were jazz vesper programs?
Huh?
These were jazz vesper programs or just
Jazz Vesper programs. We started it. I was in the East Coast Jazz Festival with Ronnie Wells. The first one she did was at Silver Springs, and some people came in from Philadelphia, and they helped to organize this guy named Gerald Price. So it was Nat Turner. I think it was Keita, Gerald Price, somebody else from Philadelphia. Well, they came down and they did Vesper services. And what they would do would take the songs, because the song is music, and just change the words, whether say, no greater love than what God gives to me. You just add some 2 or 3 words to it. You can make it a religious song. Because, you know, right now, there's so much music out here, you don't know the rap from the other thing. You got the Kirk Franklin and them doing everything with the music. So now you got more freedom and flexibility. They don't lock you in the pocket to one style of music. So we did all of that. A lot of churches all over the city in Virginia, Maryland, and Washington.
So was your work as a musician, were you ever full-time, or were you always doing other things like the prison education?
Well, music, I didn't depend on it to eat. It was my socialization. It was my giving back. It was my working with, you know, because I was trying to help guys who really was putting in the time to get somewhere, because that's what we were doing. Like this program we got now, it's hard for me to explain to a lot of young people, because all these guys want to get paid because they think that they're the greatest people in the world. Not that they're not, but they don't even come to see their teachers play. We have guys who learn from the guys. When we have the same guys that teach them, like guys like Charles Covington, Charlie Young, Peter Fraze, Joshua Bear. All these people play here. You don't see none of them really committed to the music. They're into themselves. And so we're trying to change that, because it should be community building, because that's how you get your support. Because most of the guys, once they come down here and they see the electricity of knowing that you got a community, that people actually listening to my music. And there's people out here who understand what I'm playing, who applaud me for my work, you know, and they finding it out. It's not a lot of places that give the guys that kind of thing. They get that from this church. They get that fellowship. So we are a jazz preservation project. We're not a venue like Blues Alley, but there's a blues. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to say, look, we're trying to preserve an art form, an American treasure. And so you got all these various cultures coming together. Now you got people from all over the world. When I was used to listen to music, if you were from Jamaica, you had to go to Jamaica to hear Jamaican music. Now, all kinds of cultures are coming together, which is a wonderful thing. But they have to learn how to live together, how to, appreciate the shoulders they standing on. A lot of them, they're benefiting to the point, you know, how you gonna take a note and say, this is mine? As though, and you just start playing and you 22 years old. How many people do you think have already played that note before you played it? What gives you the right to think that you should have ownership to everything? It's an insanity. You can own it while you're using it. That makes sense. It's yours while you're using it. But when you go on, pass this stuff on to the next generation. You know, and now we're living in a sophisticated time, whereas people can almost pursue their dreams because they don't have to take care of themselves. In other words, they're not producers, they're consumers. So if you're a consumer, you got to respect the people that's doing the producing while you consuming. As simple as that. And I think this music and this fellowship will bring people together, because music can pull people together. Frank Sinatra did a great thing for Louis Armstrong and them when they weren't letting no blacks into certain place. And Frank Sinatra went in there and said, look, you don't let him in here, I'm not playing. How about that? I'm not playing. No, I'm not gonna play. You're gonna let him in here, or either you're gonna find somebody else to play. And those kind of things, what makes sense when you respect the artistry of an artist, you know, that'll happen automatically.
Do you think that kind of respect, that atmosphere of respect, doesn't happen enough in venues around the city? Well,
the problem is I can't say for definitely, because I don't go around like I did. I'm an older guy. I don't make all the things because I can't physically do it like I once could. I'm not saying, but it appears to be. Because when I don't see them sitting in here and their teacher, instructor is playing, it doesn't show me the respect. It's like they begin to think that they are doing stuff on their own because they're paying for services. And they feel like, it's mine. I did this. It's me. I'm the champion. Yeah. And I think that grows naturally when you don't expose yourself to other elements. And that's what the fear is. You know, I look at that, I say, well, man, because I had, and most of them, when they come in there, they're surprised because, man, you can make, I had gigs that paid $5,000 and for the group. $5,000, we did this thing for Tony Merson. Paid everybody real good, and you know what? Nobody listened to nothing we played. We were ambiance.
Yeah.
Nobody heard nothing we played because they weren't interested in it. And the reason why a lot of people don't respect the music because they don't know how to listen to it. They don't sit down, they don't take the time because everybody looking at their phone and they want to do what they're doing. And that's how we living, but we need to change that behavior in order to smooth things out because we're headed for a rough road. And I think music, I think jazz, because jazz, you improvise, you got freedom, you got creativity. Some of these guys are remarkable, man. They're skilled players. They practice, they work hard, and they play beautifully. And so they just need to go somewhere where they're going to be heard.
And I was going to ask you, you talked about Let 'Em Play earlier. What was that organization?
That was an organization by a guy named Tony Taylor. He was given, well, it was a non-profit organization to try to put jazz in the community. He found out that people like Shirley Horn and Keita Best didn't really want to leave town and go all over the world. Shirley didn't do that to the end of her career. She hadn't gone anywhere. She stayed here and she worked workshops and stuff like that, and they needed a place to play. So he created this like an arts and humanities grant, and he created some space for people, you know, for musicians to go and play. And then he did things in all the community police people were disadvantaged folks were given the music. Because you got to realize, a lot of these guys playing now, they work at the Kennedy Center, they work at all these big places, and they come down. When we first started, guys like Arnold Sterling, guys out of Baltimore, they came and they gave their services because they wanted the music to grow. They wanted to pass something on. And it wasn't really about the money for them in that case. And some of these guys play, they want to get paid, but the money gonna go up when the more people hear you, the more you build a community. So that's what we need to do. Young people do that because they got the resources, they got the internet, they got backing, they got the people who the sponsorship. Not necessarily that the music is better, is that you constantly fed it. I feel shame. I don't know one of Beyonce's songs. I don't know a song she sings. But she's a good artist, and apparently she's doing something. It got to be respected. But I think that it's enough stuff out here, and I think culturally, the music, if you get around jazz, it's amazing music. It mixes. People all over the world respect jazz. And it comes from a music that will pull out the American, what I call it, the American, I would say the American dream or the American theme, what America's actually about. Because it's always been about helping folks, coming together, working things out, making sure we took care of each other, giving people opportunity to do the things that they wouldn't ordinarily have a chance to do. Because now, when I was coming through Northwestern, they was trying to tell me at that time, but it was foreign to me, that if you was a chef, you could make $100,000. And my mother been cooking all the time, and she ain't made $5. So I'm saying, how the hell he gonna make $100,000 cooking? And I'm looking now, all those things come to pass because there's other people doing things. They do make everything maintained, and they move it along. So.
How did you first get connected to the Westminster Church?
Well, Westminster, Brian Hamilton and his wife, I tell you the truth, they are two amazing people. Seriously. I got a lot of respect for them because they give back to the community way more than they get. And they've been doing it a long time. And so he was open to have, because we let them play, we didn't have no place, churches wasn't that open, to let you come in there. You playing what? The devil's music? You come in there with the devil's music? Get the hell out of here. And and they didn't want you playing at all, but he let us in, gave us a place to play. The philosophies were wonderful in terms of how you treat people and the way you head it. So it just was like a perfect match for us. And and the church put up the resource, and they still doing it. They still doing it because, that's the part we got to work on.
The resources?
Yeah, I think we got some wonderful stuff. We got clips, we got a community. There's a lot of people who are older who don't move around much. But that's not like they don't like the music. They like the music played, but they like to hear at least where they recognize something. Some of the younger people have decided to play some other stuff that don't nobody recognize, but their group. So, and they don't know the music because they ain't played it long enough. They can play the notes, but it doesn't have the feel. They're missing that gut feeling that you get when you hear a song that moves you. You know, they're not just, you know, the only way you get that is expose yourself to the people who got it, be in the right arena and all that kind of stuff.
And this program started in the very end of the 1990s. I know the One Step Down closed shortly after this program started. What was when you were working with Let 'Em Play, and were there clubs disappearing? What was it like trying to find homes for kind of this?
Here's the thing. People cry about the clubs. I've been going through clubs for years. Clubs have always disappeared. This is nothing new. You know, they have different ways of marketing stuff. What I found out, that people who really about this music contributors, people like Chris Grasso. Chris Grasso is a true contributor because he had the Henley Park, he did the Mandarin Hotel, he's setting up programs all around for musicians to play. Herb Scott, little guy over there at Mr. Henry's, getting programs. What's her, Margie? She sings all the Meyer, doing a great job. You got all these people who are constantly doing stuff. Then you Elijah Balbed. I mean, these are people that not only playing, they're making contributions. So we have a lot of people making contributions, changing the landscape and the atmosphere. Places gonna pop open, because now we have so many people walking around, don't know where to go, don't have nothing to do, and they're looking for something. So, you know, you got a lot of stuff going on. You got the wharf down there, but they're going in the direction they're just feeding the people whatever they can get them. They're not really, I don't know what they're doing. I ain't gonna criticize them, but I know it's not the American treasure. I know that. So we trying to stay in our lane, do the American treasure, make sure some of the people who really want to hear the music got an opportunity to do that.
You help book, or you do the booking for the program, right?
With the help of other people. I mean, I take suggestions, and Brian, and I do the major booking, yeah.
What do you look for when you're,
what
looking for somebody to play?
I look for is, first of all, you're playing something we recognize, and we're trying to preserve an art form, and sometimes the way it's set up, the older guys, I might go to Chuck Red. Say, Chuck, man, bring a group in. Chuck will say, okay. It's a lot of young guys that read well. He'll bring in some young guys, trying to expose them to something different. They get a chance to work with an older guy, somebody who's a super talent, and he brings in groups like that. So I try to bring in somebody familiar. I wouldn't just bring in a bunch of new guys who don't nobody ever seen. They want to come in there because they think they can play. Well, who the hell? Don't nobody know you. At least play with somebody, become part of the community. And I like guys who give a little bit. They say, well, if you call them and say, look, man, we need so-and-so, they'll come in and they'll do something. So I look for that. It's just more than just playing. And then we got so many guys who are great musicians, who respect the program, and they come and they play. So we really got enough to fill the place up. I'm gonna have those guys play, but we don't have because we only got 52 weeks in a year. That's not very many weeks.
Yeah.
So in that 52 weeks, we try to bring in, and every now and then we bring in, a ringer, somebody who, like we brought in Houston Person, and we had a guy named, you probably don't know him. His name was man. You got me stuck.
I was gonna say you had Buster Williams with Paul Carr last
Yeah,
December.
well, Paul brought Buster Williams because Paul believed in the program. He's trying to keep everything tight. Paul, he brought Buster Williams in. Buster Williams is a tremendous player, but we got guys like, this is the bass town. We got a lot of great bass players in this town. And we got all these educational institutions that are great, but we just don't have the relationship that we should have to keep the music afloat, to pass the culture on. We got to do better with that, because people come from all over the world, they're bringing their own culture, because you ain't saying nothing. If you're not speaking, what do you expect them to do? So what you have to do is have something for them to point to. And right now, I think Westminster does a good job of doing that, you know, pointing to, well, that's what we're trying to do.
But what do you hope to do more with that, as you were saying?
Well, I was going to, see, here's my problem. I want to speak on it, but I don't want to talk on it now, because every time I talk on it, somebody come and do it, then we left out. So what I'm saying to you is that give us a chance to work on what we're working on. We know what we think we need to do. And if we just get a little support from the different places, we'll be fine.
How important has it been for, especially some of the elders in the DC Jazz community, to have this place to play, have this community?
It's important. Well, I think what it is, they feel appreciated, because a lot of these guys teaching people, and we, like he said, like Brian said, we've had ceremonies, we have tributes, we've had memorial services, and all these people come together, and we got people in here 100 years old. Like in a couple of days, we have a party for a woman gonna be 95. She done heard a lot of this, but she done heard everybody play. Duke Ellington on down. So you can get your music critiqued if you come down here, because they were saying, you start seeing them walking out, you know, you short. You short on making this go. And you know, all of us think we're so grand, but we don't realize you're standing on the shoulders of people. And everybody bring what they bring, like you bring what you bring to the table. I'm not trying to bring what you bring. I bring what I bring. And I recognize this. Some people may not like what I bring. It's okay. You know, it's okay. You bring what you bring, and you keep on bringing what you bring to you. But you'll find a group of people that will probably like your stuff if it's any good at some point. So that's, you know, I never forget when I used to listen to Sarah Vaughan, Carmen McRae. I listened to Gloria Lynn, and they all sung the same songs. Same songs. But they did it the way they do it. And I began to learn how to respect the artistry of the artist, especially if you're convincing when you play. If you're playing and you believe in what you're doing and you delivering it, people can hear it. So that's the thing that I think that one of the major things that I think that we're trying to bring to the table, because we want the American idea. Right now, our democracy is being threatened because we got too many people that don't follow nothing, because they come and they just trying to get what they can get. And that's the problem. I think the music may help to bring back, hey, look here, there's a culture here, there's a process here. We take care of one another, we play, we have all these wonderful things we can do because we get support from one another. That's the only way you're gonna win. You gotta build community. So.
And you think all that's in jazz and in the music?
I think it's all in jazz, because jazz kind of settled them down. When they went up, they popping their fingers and they sing the same note over and over again. I don't know what the hell they thinking. Pants down by the ankles. You know, they go to these big concerts. I tell you, do a great job of that kind. You ever see country western artists?
On the occasion.
Man, they deliver some hellfire songs. I mean, serious business. And that's what you want the music to deliver. You know, especially if it's an American thing. And I'm telling you, all over the world, we got artists who playing here, who play all over the world. We had people from Baltimore, like Warren Wolf. We done had Chris Fun. We had his daddy. We had Arnold Sterling. We have, oh man, we got so many people. I just can't even name them all. Be injustice to try to name everybody. But that's what we got. And I think it's good for them to know from whence you come. Don't think that because you out there playing, you the best player in the world, you may be. But be respectful of the people, because I mean, the same way with football. In football, these kids, now they got great coaching, they get more money, they can spend all day long working on their craft. All day long, because they got the resources. They can have whatever they need. If they falter, it's because they faltering on their own, because they got everything they need to bring them up. But they're not grateful for how they got there. Somebody laid the foundation so you could be respectful. It don't cost nothing. And like I was saying, if we had, and this is seem stupid, but I know it's got to be over 300,000 people in the area. Okay, if everybody gave $1, we could have jazz all the time. For $300,000, we could pay all the musicians that keep going, and we ain't got to pay no big money and make it happen. So that's my theory with what we doing. Here's something good. Get to be a part of it. Support it, and we'll keep it playing.
And you've also said that the fact that, for years, the fact the admission was only $5 was important for everyone in the community too, because that meant.
Yeah, we had to go up to 10 though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to go up because, I mean, the church has been wonderful. Believe me, these people, and they've been wonderful. And so $10 is nothing for the kind of guys you hear in here. It's nothing.
But it's important because you have a lot of, as you've said, a lot of older people coming who are on fixed incomes or something, and this is all. Yeah,
this is all they got. And you're right. You're absolutely right. And that's how everybody should feel. Listen, it ain't something I would do, but I'll give $2 to a guy laying down in the street. So I could do that to make sure culturally we have something. And for our kids, I think, the culture now is sickening, the culture that they living under. They haven't seen any other cultures. This is not even visible to them. They don't even know this exists. And I remember when I was little, when I used to go to jazz shows, I'd be looking, what is this they doing? I said, dang, I ain't never seen that before, because I have not had any exposure to anything like that. I didn't even know it existed. I thought everybody had to be, you know, doing some other crazy stuff. So I think you're absolutely right. We got to keep positive things available. And I think this music, it has a positive form.
And a positive place to house it at.
Yep. No question. At this point, you're absolutely correct.
What do you hope for the future?
Well, hope for the future for us is to get enough resources to continue to make sure we're exposing people to the old stuff as well as the new stuff. I ain't knocking the new stuff. There's plenty of place for that. So I think the future's going to be good if we can get community building concept up, because it's a lot of components. Like, take an example of you're an older person and you can't get out of the house. And you say, I would like to see that program. Well, you can't even stream because you don't know nothing about the internet. So that way we can probably set up some programs where young people are going and teach a senior how to stream, how to get it up on their thing. It's affordable. They can see something that they're not going to see on regular TV. How much jazz you see on TV?
Next to none.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people out here like it. So I'm thinking if we can get those kind of things, but it takes community action. It's going to take more than one person. It takes, because we do things in phases now, components. You know, we have somebody do this, somebody else do that, somebody else do that. We don't have one person to do everything. That's not the way the world working in the days of culture.
At the same time, community is kind of how it seems like it's always been done.
You're absolutely correct. So I think if we could correct that, if we could put something in, we'll get something out.
Even as DC continues to change.
DC, I've been in DC a long time. I'm watching the changes. You know something? It's gonna balance itself out. They got too much stuff going on in the street, for one thing. People done start getting hit. I knew they was gonna get hit a long time ago. It's just a matter of time. Because you got too many crosswalks, too many mopeds, too many this, too many bicyclists. The street not made for that. It's not gonna work. So it'll balance itself out. You know, ain't nothing you can do. We just gotta go through the transition. That's where we are. You know, but I think that we have to put some stuff in place. That's what I'm concerned about. Keep it like the music is what we're working on. We put this in place, you put what you put in place. Because we got, Capital Bop, they really kind of helped us out with putting our stuff out there. You got people like Antonio Parker doing conversations in jazz. So you can learn about jazz people and about the individual stuff. It's very well done. He's doing that. You got Sharon Clark, she got stuff down, JoJo's going on. You got people who constantly contributing. So it's not like we don't have any contributors, we just need to get support.
I think that's a good place to end.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I got tired.
53 minutes, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I got